Hello, everybody. Welcome to your very favorite Spider-Man podcast. Here comes the Spider-Cast. I'm your co-host, Mike Owl, and as always, I'm joined by
Joshua Mervell, and today we're going to be taking a look at Spidey comics from February of 1986.
That's right, and as usual, we're joined by G.I. Jolie, who's returning after an absence, right, Jolie?
Woo!
Yes,
Woo.
she is back.
She is back.
And then also joining us is Bex Luthor.
Yo, what up? It's me. Yeah, boy.
So, this week, we are talking about Web of Spider-Man number 11, Amazing Spider-Man 273, Peter Parker 111, and everybody's favorite Secret Wars 2 number 8.
Boo!
And I'm going to be starting things off with giving a brief description of Web of Spider-Man number 11. Probably the most tame of the 4 issues, the more ground level.
Right.
So we see Spidey at the beginning of the issue stop a mugging that's going down in a flower shop. It's always a flower shop or a jewelry shop, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And the civilians are a little bit upset because, well, everybody's kind of split on whether Spidey had the right to kind of jump in and be a vigilante. One of the shop owners, she's kind of upset that he stepped in. So are some of the police officers, and then the other police officers and the husband, the owner, one of the owners of the shop, is kind of happy that Spidey stepped in because these muggers had guns and they were about to kind of, more people were about to be in danger because it was about to be rush hour. I don't know why they couldn't just block off the street because they're police officers, but the stakes were rising and Spidey swung in to save the day. We cut over to Spidey. He's on a rooftop, kind of ham-fistedly talking about how he's kind of going over some morality things because he has the solid gold notebook from the Beyonder when he turned the Baxter, or not the Baxter building, a whole apartment complex into gold.
Right.
Then he's in a laundromat doing his laundry, and these thugs come in and they start harassing one of the owners or one of the workers of the store, and Peter Parker steps in and stops these guys. He doesn't have enough time to go change into his Spidey clothes, so he just stops them as Peter. And everybody in the back of the laundromat kind of see this, ask him his name, and they're super happy that he was able to stop the mugging and kind of protect them because recently there's been so much crime and everything going on that they don't really know what to do. So the next day, or possibly later that night, the civilians from the laundromat earlier are having a town hall meeting, and they decide to kind of start a night watch group and call themselves the Peter Parker
Patrol.
Patrol, and they start Peter Parker Day. And Peter's a little bit upset about this because he wants to kind of lay low. He doesn't really want everybody to know that he was able to stop a mugging because it would kind of bring him and his secret identity kind of closer together, and it might be easier for people to draw the lines between the two. Peter Parker goes back to his apartment and somebody throws a stink bomb in there, and a knife is jabbed through his pillow with a note pinned to it saying, "You'll get yours, hero." And it turns out that these thugs are after Peter Parker and kind of terrorizing him now. And this whole issue is really kind of about the thugs and and Peter kind of having to deal with it rather than him dress up as Spider-Man. Peter's kind of having this crisis of not knowing what to do. So he goes over and pays his old friend Flash Thompson a visit and kind of asks him about how he would deal with it since he was a former bully. And Flash kind of reveals that he kind of felt it was reversed, where Peter was a jerk and Flash was just kind of putting him in his place. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of this nice, real moment between the two of them. It's the first time, I think, maybe in a while, if at all, where we kind of get a more human side of Flash and we kind of see where he's coming from and get his side of the story. So Peter Parker goes back to his apartment, and once again, the place is completely trashed. So he goes over as Spider-Man, dons the costume, and stops them. But it turns out that they go back to his place once again, and they light the entire thing on fire. And they leave him a note, or they throw a note down to him from the top of the building that says, "Real heroes fight their own fights, wimp. Have a hot time tonight." So, and that's where we're left at the end of this issue, is with this gang kind of taking things to its most extreme and lighting an entire building essentially on fire to send Peter Parker a message.
So here's the thing, going in, Danny Fingeroth, I was worried, but Bill Mantlo's back. If you remember Bill Mantlo, who did Peter Parker for a long time when we first started the show, Josh. We got Bob McLeod on art, and I actually really enjoyed this issue, other than a few questionable depictions of certain stereotypes about certain people, which we can talk about. But this reminded me so much about why I love this 1980s storytelling. Everything's densely plotted. We have almost a complete story in one issue, which I really liked. We have a cliffhanger that depends on the story itself, not on a surprise appearance of like a cliche or a villain or whatever. But I actually really enjoyed this one. And that Flash Thompson scene really stood out to me. I remember it from when I was a kid, and I always thought it was interesting that in his own eyes, he was, the good guy, and Peter Parker was the jerk. So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, Josh, what did you think of it?
I thought it was pretty solid. Sorry, I accidentally muted myself there.
No problem. It's okay. We know you're eating. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Don't call him out. Rude.
You're right. It wasn't an accident. I muted myself so you couldn't hear my crunching. So, yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid story all in all. Again, like you were saying, there are moments where there are some like stereotypes of characters that seem extremely outdated and awful. But I kind of like that we get a little bit more of Peter Parker and less of Spidey. The villains are more just like thugs, and Peter doesn't think that Spider-Man should really get involved at this point, and it's like kind of a like more personal dilemma. I really do love the stuff with Flash, like you were saying before. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty solid issue. I had fun reading it.
Bex Luthor, what do you think?
I will say, as I was reading it, I was like, why are there rats in the refrigerator? What kind of prank is that? But yeah, I did really enjoy the Flash Thompson stuff. I mean, any opportunity to see Flash Thompson in his hot pants, 10 out of 10 for me.
And crop top.
Yeah, like, can we bring this fashion back? Hello?
I'm on it. Not you, Mike.
No, I did have a fun time. I mean, the thugs really weren't interesting to me, and they did focus, I think, a little bit too much on them. Like, I was like, oh, they have terrible home lives? Cool. Well, they did just threaten to sexually assault a woman, so I don't feel bad for them. and their bad home lives. Like, they...
I totally agree.
They did so much exposition on the one guy, and his brother's in the mob, and his brother's like, you don't want to be like me, even though my Cadillac's out front. Like, okay, whatever. And then the other guy's dad beats him for stealing. And I'm like, oh, that's rough, buddy. But also, like, 20 minutes ago, you were gonna sexually assault a girl in her place of work.
Right.
Exactly.
So, who cares?
Yeah, I would feel bad for them and think that they were, sympathetic characters if it weren't for that fact, right? It's one thing to, rob a store because you need money. It's another thing to sexually assault and get close to,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah. They make them unlikable from the start, and then they try to redeem them later on, and it's like there's no redeeming this.
And all they had to do was not put that assault in there, and then like they robbed the place, and then Peter's like, "Oh, this gun didn't have any bullets in them. They were never going to hurt anybody. They were just like whatever, and then you find out they have a rough home life and stuff, and it's not. But like you made them literally the scummiest of scumbags, so I don't care what happens to them. In fact, they can all burn in that apartment building for all I care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I just don't like the attempt to try to make me sympathize with these men that I mean, I understand it was written in the 80s, so maybe it's like, oh, well, they're just boys being boys, having a rough go of life. And I'm like, well, me too, buddy. How about that woman in the laundromat? She's just having a rough fuck go of things. I don't know, it just pissed me off. So I think I just sullied my enjoyment of the rest of it, which is rude because Flash Thompson is in hot pants after that, so excuse me.
Yeah, and you get like MJ in a really cute sweater in a like, oh my god. I liked it until he met her in a place called Le Gallery Photography, because nothing says legitimate like butchered French. I, for one, take like offense to their portrayal of florists. I don't know. I'm trying to find something good or funny to say about this issue, but I'm having a hard time. It's terrible.
The rats are well drawn.
Yeah. Do you know what? The art, it was really nice in this book. I really liked it.
It was excellent. Yeah, Bob McLeod, yeah. He's so good.
Yeah. Do you know what? Even the real, like, aside, I'm just going right back to the story. It's like, oh, I can't remember the conversation that he had with MJ at all, though. What were they even talking about? They were talking about it's what her friends shoot.
Yeah, they met there, but Peter Parker asked her there because he needed advice on what to do, whether to deal with the situation as Peter or Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's right. You know what? Somebody on the online version where we read this, somebody mentioned it in the comments section. Once you get past all the weird ads that are clearly there to, to run in the background. Anyway, they said, why include MJ in the story if you're not going to do anything with her? Like, at least you get some really meaty stuff, both visually and philosophically with Flash, but you get nothing from MJ, because he asks for her advice and doesn't take it. It's like, it doesn't mean anything.
Oh my god.
I noticed, like, I didn't even know this website had comments, but it also says that the thugs didn't steal the golden notebook.
Well, actually, do we know for sure it was the thugs that started the fire?
Yeah.
I think it's implied that it's a question, isn't it, or no?
Well, they throw a note off the building and saying that...
Yeah.
Okay, we'll find out next issue, but what if you're wrong?
What do you mean?
Well, then whoever lit Peter Parker's apartment on fire didn't steal the golden notebook.
And they also went in a couple of times. They had to put the rats in the fridge.
Yeah.
They were in there multiple times.
I'm just talking about the fire, though. But, wait a minute, no, you can see them. You're right. They're on top of the roof. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and they've been in there multiple times to put a stink bomb and put the knife through the bed with the note. Like, they were in his apartment. They didn't steal anything. They just fucked with him. So they left the golden notebook there.
What about my golden notebook?
I think even in the next issue, Puma's like, hey, look at this. Like, he's like, it was just sitting there.
Right.
Ugh, and I hate
the subplot that keeps on giving. Sorry, go ahead, Becca.
Well, just at the beginning of the issue, he's like, all of the shop owners, everyone's talking about, like, oh, that boy needs a degree in ethics or something, and he's like literally borrowed 3 books on ethics and morals from the library, and he's like, now, what do I do about this notebook? I'm like, oh, I don't know, Peter, throw it off the cliff. Who cares? I'm done with it.
I forgot about that part. That was ridiculous. Like, an absurd amount of books from the library because this is actually giving him that much of a crisis. He's having an existential crisis over this freaking notebook. This is sad.
He also beat the ever-loving hell out of the thugs with the morality books.
Well,
which is
they are
just
thugs.
fantastic.
Yeah.
He like
And then he does that, and
Yeah.
he's like, oh no, my books are ruined. I don't know, Peter. What? You didn't have to do that. You could have just
hey,
punched
don't you
him.
have super strength? Don't you got like webs and stuff? You could have, not beat them with the books.
books.
It's just a couple little things that like then take you out of the story, and you're like, oh, I'm reading a comic book instead of like reading a story. I don't know. It's just like him having these books on morality while discussing morality. Rats in the refrigerator. Like, what the hell is going on?
Well,
Yeah.
again, it could have used another draft, right? Like another pass.
For
to eliminate
sure.
some of that stuff.
It's tough because I think that a lot of the stuff that's in here is very good, and I enjoyed most of what I read, but
Right.
those moments that do stand out are the bad ones that don't fit, and they make the story like not good. You know what I mean? Like you can say like, oh, it was really great besides the part where the thugs try to sexually assault the woman, but it's like but that was there, so it gives the rest of the comic context, right? So it's tough because I did enjoy reading most of this, but it did have some problems with it. So it's
right.
I don't know.
But we all agree.
All in all, I liked it, I think, but yeah.
And we all agree the art is good. Like, I really love this art. But Bob McLeod, love the guy. I don't know. He never became like a superstar, but he was always so good. I just love his stuff. It reminds me of like Silver Age Superman stuff, Kurt Swan or something. So anyway, with reservations, I do recommend it because I enjoyed it so much. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, I think that I can't give it a recommendation without pointing out its flaws, if that makes any sense. You know how in some of the Looney Tunes cartoons they have like a card before the shorts start,
Sure,
stating that it was in the past, and they're preserving it for. They're just like giving context to why there are some things that might be outdated and irresponsible as creators and storytellers. I think I would kind of do the same with this.
Sure.
Because I think there's some really good stuff in there. I love the dialogue between Flash and Peter. Like, that's fantastic. I think that's my favorite thing out of everything we've read this week. But again, there are moments that really stand out and aren't good. So,
Bex Luthor.
Yeah, same thing. It'd be like, read it for the parts that are good, but like big trigger warning at the beginning, because like I don't know. I don't even know if I would recommend it. The Flash stuff is really good. Maybe just skip to that, because like it just anytime I'm reading something that I'm going into it not knowing that something like this happens, like in a movie or a TV show, it makes me feel gross and upset, and I just can't enjoy what comes after it, because I'm like, oh, now I'm brought back into the reality of being a woman in the world, and it sucks mad balls. So if you are a woman and this kind of stuff bothers you, like it bothers most women, I would say just skip to the Flash parts, if anything. The rats are cute. That's it.
All right. You should have kept them as pets.
Spider rats.
G.I. Jolie, what do you think?
If you like a good Brooklyn rat, this book is for you. Yeah, I have the same reservations. Again, I mean, I don't know how to. I just have been thinking about it ever since like a few episodes ago, where I just don't know how this world can reconcile writing in accents and broken English. Because it's a visual medium, so I don't know that it's ever going to come off good or bad, or if it's ever going to be dissected. Like maybe somebody studies like the depiction of linguistics in comic books. Who knows? But for some reason, it's always bothered me as somebody who has to read English as second language speakers, and also is English as a second language, and et cetera, et cetera. There's just a lot of things to think about now. And I don't know that it makes the story good or bad, but it definitely dates the story. Mm-hmm. I couldn't help but think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I couldn't help but think this is the first time my enjoyment was removed from reading the comic, because it was like, I could place it in a period in time where like that stuff, quote, doesn't happen anymore. And
I think the big
sorry.
Sorry. I think the big thing too is like, what did that add?
Yeah.
Like what did it add to the story? Both the scene and their choice to give an accent to this character.
Yeah.
There's no reason. You know what I mean? There's like nothing.
Yeah, like there is such a thing, you know what I mean? Like, cool, Chinese laundrette. But also, like any laundrette that I've ever been to, there has been an Asian woman working there. But again, like you say, like, I'm accustomed to, if someone doesn't speak a language or speaks broken English, they usually just write the English inside brackets. And like write something, like the comics have handled this before, and we will see it in more the issues that are upcoming in this chat we're about to have, where they just write it in English and they tell us in an editor note that it's translated from the Korean or like from whatever foreign space language it's been translated from, like as it becomes part of the visual gag. And this is it hits too close to home for me because I'm Asian and I hate this. I hate this part of the book so bad. Anyway, I mean, anyone who's seen somebody struggle with the language, but also, is a woman, has to deal with sexual harassment. Just the idea that, sorry, I just didn't get to talk about it too much earlier, but like, just the idea that he was right around the corner and they were going to rape her in broad daylight. Like, it's not that it's too heavy. It's that it was not written with the kind of care it could have been written. Like, it was almost like, well, we need a device. We need to put her in danger. So let's use the harm that has always happened to Asian women's bodies. Let's rape her. Like, that's always the trouble that I see Asian women in, is rape by men. And it's like when can we stop raping Asian women as a plot device? And that's it for me. So no, I can't recommend it without saying that there are things that are going to bother you in this, because it is of its time, severely of its time.
All right, well, part 2 is coming next week, so we'll see how this story turns out.
But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. It is off, and there's no reason for it to be there. Like, even through a story point, like nothing. There's nothing to excuse it. So it does seem off and completely jumps out. Even to anybody new to reading comics, this would stand out, I think, and be kind of a sore spot for the entire issue. So yeah. But yeah, I think maybe it's probably time to just move on to the next one. Let's
all right. Yeah. So
talk about something maybe a little lighter.
There you go. Speaking of lighter, let's have the return of Puma.
Like, are you commenting on my weight? Because that's rude.
Not at all. Bex Luthor, you're going to do this one, right?
Sure, why not? You know me, I love talking about the Beyonder. He's my favorite. Just 10 out of 10 guy. So yeah, in the last issue, there was, for some reason, the last page or two was like, oh, there's this guy he's the Puma, and he's gonna fight the Beyonder. And that's what happens. So you get a little, like, backstory about Puma, kind of, if you're not too familiar with him, as I'm not too familiar with him. Looks like Native American tribe. They have a warrior. He's the Puma. He's getting all ready to fight the Beyonder. Even though, as I was reading this, for some strange reason, he's just like, I don't think the Beyonder's real, but he can turn into a giant cat man, but whatever.
Good point.
It's like, the Beyonder, a man from space, irrelevant. Anyway, good thing I brought a pack of spare clothes after I turned into a big cat.
That was bad, yep.
So then we go back to New York, and Peter Parker is stopping thugs, as he is wont to do. And he prevents the burglary or whatever of these two guys who are passing out pamphlets for the Beyonder's cult religion thing. And then we get some sad notebook stuff, irrelevant, who cares? And he decides to go visit Nathaniel, Aunt May's boyfriend, in the hospital because he's still in there from being beat up a couple issues back. And they talk about, and Aunt May has the button, like, from the Beyonder cult on her, and they're watching the news about the Beyonder cult. And then we see Puma is coming back from, like, the guy who is Puma, what's his name? Thomas Fireheart? Not Firefox, not Firelord, it's Fireheart. He's coming back from his business meeting. We got everybody all set up at the Daily Bugle again, blah, blah, blah. And then we have a great scene of Ned Leeds telling his girlfriend or his wife, I think, that he does not have time for her. Even though she just recently was involved with the Saint Eater and almost died. Yeah, so he's just like, oh, sorry, babe, work calls, and she goes to cry in the bathroom. And Peter's like, well, nothing I can do about that. And then he goes back home because he didn't get any work because Steve Bannon got the job instead of him. So he goes back to his apartment and his spider sense goes off and the Puma's just sitting in his apartment. And Mary Jane's like, you know what? I'm out. I don't know why she was there to begin with, but she was for 2 pages and then we kick her out. Mm-hmm. And then it turns out the Puma knows that he's Spider-Man. And then they're talking about how he wants to pay him to help him kill the Beyonder. We do a quick little sidestep back to see what Ned is doing. And it turns out he followed his wife, Betty, who was so sad because her husband didn't have time for her that she runs into the arms of another man who does have time for her. And Ned goes, I knew it! She's cheating on me! Yeah, Ned.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
It's like, okay, dude.
I don't have time for you.
Okay.
I'm too busy following you around and spying on you.
So fine. Straight into the
I've
comfort
been
of
spying on you right in front of the building where we both work.
Right.
It's just like,
yeah, like the signs in the background. I didn't realize that.
And nothing happens. She just hugs him because she's like obviously upset because her husband's being a dick to her. So like, she's hugging another man. Ooh, whatever.
I bet you it's
friends with all of them, aren't they?
Yeah. Whatever. I'm on Betty's side for all of this. So then we go back to Peter's apartment where him and the Puma are teaming up and they're gonna go find the Beyonder. They go to like this random building where apparently the cult leaders reside, I guess. And Puma is convinced that this guy is the Beyonder, just this random guy. And Peter's like, I don't think so. He's just a dude. I don't think that's the Beyonder. And it turns out it's not. And Puma almost kills this man and then just is like, there's no way this is the Beyonder. This is just a man. Yeah, dude, got it. So then they go back on the rooftop and Peter's like, oh, well, you gotta be careful because, like, the Beyonder could be anywhere. And then the Beyonder shows up. And
it's like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, he said his name too many times and here he is. You thought his name too many times and there he is. And then Puma's like, oh, I'll kill you. And the Beyonder's like, I think you should go to Japan. So he sends him to Japan. Good thing he's got a business in Japan. So he goes there and he's stuck there. Then we get a fun scene of Peter painting his apartment with Mary Jane. And then Puma is back from Japan and gives Mary Jane a kimono, because that's what you do when you go to Japan. You buy kimonos and you give them to white women. And then, so Puma's like... It's like, oh, that one white woman I saw that one time in Peter Parker's apartment. I'll get her a kimono.
Because the next time I interrupt whatever it is that they're doing, she's obviously going to be there, so I better come with a gift.
Have a parting gift for her.
It's kind of thoughtful.
Sorry, I keep interrupting you and you're not boyfriend. Here's a kimono. So he's coming back to give Peter a better offer. He's like, $100,000 to help me kill the Beyonder, even though it clearly has not been about the money for Peter when it was just like $5,000. So I don't know why this would change it. And then the Beyonder shows up in their apartment because, again, the Beetlejuice rules. And that's it. So, Mike, what'd you think?
I actually surprisingly liked it. Like, it's better than the average issue of Amazing lately. And I think I chalk it up to, I really think Puma's a cool character. Like, the fact that he kind of lives in two worlds. Like, he is a Native American, but he's also, you know, like this business millionaire entrepreneur or whatever. And he, like you said, he turns into a were-Puma, but he is, you know, what's it called? Not skeptical about the fact that even though it's his destiny of his entire life is to kill the Beyonder, he doesn't believe the Beyonder exists. So I don't know. I just think he's a really cool character, and I think that carried the story for me. I think I don't know. I just think it's a good story, and I like the next part of the story, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I thought it was actually pretty good. What do you think, Becca?
Again, there was too many like weird little things that just really pulled me out of it. Like, so Thomas Fireheart is a billionaire Native American who turns into a big cat man, which is cool. That's a cool backstory. I don't know why he's a billionaire. That's fun though. I don't know. It just, there's a lot of like, anything with the Beyonder ticks me off to a point where I can't enjoy it. I just hate the Beyonder. Like, and it's not even the idea of an all-powerful character that I don't like, because I think that can be done really interestingly, but it's just not. It's just, like, everything that didn't have the Beyonder in it is fine, but then the whole quest with the Puma, like, you know he's going to kill the Beyonder, and you're like, okay, well, he's the Beyonder, though. Like, how's that going to work out?
Right.
So you just feel like they're setting him up for failure. The whole fact that he just knows who Peter Parker is, and Peter's like, what? I'm not Spider-Man. And then he's like, but you're Spider-Man. And then he's like, yeah, I guess I'm Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm Spider-Man.
Sorry, my apartment recently caught fire. I don't know. It was okay.
I totally agree with you. I think that this was a really strong issue, except for when the Beyonder shows up. The story is pretty solid, and I like that Spidey and Puma have to like kind of team up and sneak into a building, and they're trying to like sneak up on this weird celestial cult type thing, and
right.
like that stuff's all super fun. And then Peter being like, you know, I'm not taking your money. You know, I'm not a mercenary. I'm not going to be paid to kill a man. Like, that's great. Peter Parker's actually written like Peter Parker for the first time in like months. You know what I mean? Like they're getting back to the roots of who Peter is. I love that. But then, yeah, the fact that they're after the Beyonder and it's connected to this larger Secret War story is kind of a bummer, because we know that the story is leading to Secret Wars and not to its own story that's going to have like a nice clean finish. It's going to just be this insane clusterfuck that is Secret Wars 2.
Yes.
Right? But yeah, I thought it was good. And like any issue of Spider-Man, there's always these like weird moments that are just like a couple of panels smashed into the middle of a comic for like comedic effect, like the kid that's throwing a temper tantrum in the doctor's office, and then he like looks outside and sees Spider-Man. He's like,
Right.
I'm gonna stay. Like, what? Why? Okay, whatever.
Yeah, why is
Like,
that
it's
even
just
there? Yep.
weird things like that. But I mean, that's just Spider-Man, I think.
Yeah, G.I. Jolie, what do you think of this one?
This one also
Joey, you got
includes
an
my
upset tummy.
Yes. I've had too much. Yeah. Oh God. I feel like I'm harping about the Asian stereotypes, but I feel like it needs to be said.
No, say it. Say it.
No. So it's like they have this old Morimoto guy who Puma, goes and gets powers from, or was his sensei or teacher?
I think that happens
about
next.
Japan. What do you mean happens? What happens next?
That's
It
in a
happened at the
different.
start
That's
of the
in a.
issue.
Oh, yes. Wait, no, that's not. No, that's a different guy.
Wait, I was like, did I read the right issue? Yes, I did.
This-
Okay.
Spectacular.
Spectacu-
It's when he's in Japan that he sees that guy
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he's a sensei.
So it's like he Puma does the thing that like Native Americans and old wise Asians are all stereotyped with doing, is the way that they speak. They speak in a very like spiritual, all-knowing kind of way, and then obviously he gets called out by this old ninja master, and he's like, "You can cut that grasshopper crap," because he's so hip and cool. He's got a Walkman on.
Well, that's in Spectacular though.
That's the next issue.
We're
What
not
are we
talking about Spectacular. What are we even
No.
talking about?
Amazing
Oh,
Spider-Man, which is part one of the story,
Yeah.
the 2-part story.
That is my big problem with some of these stories is like, if you'll notice the annotations in these, they're all like, check out Web of 11 to 10, check out Amazing, check out Spectacular. It's just like, how about you just tell me what's happening in this book?
I hate that too, but you got to accept it, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
No
like
wonder
going to Taco
why.
Bell and complaining about them trying to upsell you fries. Of course they're going to do it, right? It's their job.
I guess so, but if you're reading Amazing, then it's like it's annoying when you need to read other comics to get the context of this one. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
I get it, but you should still be able to read this issue without having prior knowledge. And if you read the other ones, it's just bonus, right?
That is, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Right, because that's what Secret Wars should be about. It's like, okay, Secret Wars is this event. It's like it's a mini series that's going on, and it's for the people who are going through and reading all of the other comics. And this is the one, you know, Secret Wars is the one where it's like, okay, go read this before you read this. Okay, now go read this for context about this. Where when it's in like a regular issue, it feels cheap to me.
So did anyone mention that pretty much everything in this book is in Spectacular? And we may as well just skip to Spectacular.
No. There's like one
Because-
scene of overlap.
Yeah,
There's
Betty doesn't cheat on her husband in the other one.
oh,
And then
yeah.
there's also the espionage stuff too, with like the secret cult thing, and then him offering him money and stuff.
Well,
but
in any case,
it's-
this is part one, so
I think that's more of a problem with Spectacular having to completely recap Amazing,
right.
where they
Right,
should have maybe just done like this was, Spectacular is just next week's issue of Amazing Spider-Man, so it follows the story properly.
Well, here's the
Yeah,
problem.
'cause he-
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Well, here's the thing. The whole time Becca was doing the recap, I had the wrong issue open, and I was like, oh, why can't I find... But I was still able to follow along with what she was saying. That's the thing. Everything that she talked about that was in this issue is in Spectacular. That's
They
what I
describe
mean.
his trip to Japan more.
Well, they go into
Well-
plenty of detail about that trip to Japan, but as somebody who, if I read all of this, if I only read Spider-Man Comics Monthly, that would kind of drive me nuts. It's sort of like a waste of money.
Well, here's
Because
the
we
problem.
don't-
Oh.
Sure.
Well, I was going to say, Spider-Man experimented with this in the 80s, and then unfortunately Superman did it Like, if you read Superman in the 90s, you read 4 or 5 monthly comics. You would read Superman, Action Comics, Adventures of Superman, Superman the Man of Steel, and then Superman the Man of Tomorrow. And each issue would continue into the next. It was like reading a weekly comic, right? But instead of calling it Superman Weekly, they had 4 different titles with 4 different creative teams. So that was disastrous, but everyone loved it. I hated it, you know? To me, it would have made more sense to have 4 issues in a row by one creative team than 4 issues in a row by another creative team, so at least it would have a little bit more flow. But yeah, like with this story, you're reading Amazing 273, and it continues into Peter Parker 111. And I'll tell you, I had Peter Parker 111 as a kid. I didn't get Amazing 273 for years because I couldn't find it, you know? So, yeah, it's not ideal.
Yeah, and yeah, it's just a very weird choice. Like Joe, like both of you guys were saying, it's a very weird choice to have it be like a part 1, part 2 over the same month with different stories, like different books. I like when they acknowledge each other's existence, right? Where you can get that, but it's a part 1 and a part 2. And I think that's the reason why it's so off-putting. And because it's a part 1, part 2, but coming out in the same month in different books, Spectacular, the reason why Jolie got confused as to which one we were talking about is because they had to spend so much time recapping what happened in Amazing, where if it was just Amazing 274, next week or next month's issue, they wouldn't have to recap the entirety of Amazing Spider-Man. They could have just continued it, and it was like the next chapter. Right. Yeah, a little confusing, a little all over the place between the two stories. I enjoyed what was happening for the most part in Amazing, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like it slightly better than average, I think. And it's because I like the Puma.
Yeah, and you don't need to know anything about the Beyonder to enjoy this. You know what I mean? Like it's a pretty, like, the Beyonder, he's this guy from space, and he's starting a cult. It's like, okay, cool, I get that. I don't know anything, literally anything that is happening in Secret Wars 2. It is...
What's that like?
So confusing, and I just don't care enough to try to learn. But this made sense as to somebody who knows nothing about Secret Wars 2. So I think for the most part, Amazing this week worked for me. It does fall apart a little bit when we get into part 2 with Spectacular, though.
Which we'll talk about in a brief moment. One thing, G.I. Jolie, what do you think of Puma? Puma.
Oh, he's great.
Yeah, he's cool, eh?
I like when they have, fun characters, wonderful costumes. Is he all hair in this one? Let me just double check. He gets a little singlet later, but and it's a magenta. I can't tell if that's because of the lack of color that there was in 1987 or if it's like if it was a choice. Oh no, sorry, that's still Spectacular. In this issue, it's red because it's recolored. So they had, I think he's pretty cool. There really isn't anything like terrible about this guy. This issue was like really clean. I was all up in Spectacular's grill. Like I was ready to let that hoe have it, but I just was like, I was in it because I accidentally was in it. But now that I think about it, Amazing is probably the book that I enjoyed the most because it was the cleanest. Like the story was very tidy.
Yeah,
everything was very tidy. From this, and it had everything. It had cults. It had a big cat man from New Mexico, and he is also Native American, and and it had cheating on your spouse, but not really, but really, and spying, and it was great. Again, it was really clean, and this is the kind of, it wasn't the best. Like, I wasn't like, this is dope, but like, I wasn't excited about it, but I wasn't super upset by it, like I am most weeks.
Anything else to add, Becca? Did you do your review, Becca?
Huh? Probably.
Did you?
She hates to be on there. You asked her first.
Oh yeah, no, you did ask me first.
She asked you because she recapped.
Oh right, that's right.
Man, you know what? Your memory's bad when you don't remember something that happened literally 5 minutes ago.
Well, it is bad. But then again, you don't remember either, so okay.
I was insulting myself. If you took it personally, that's on you. Yeah. This one, not as icky as the other one. I'm a big fan of running into the arms of Flash Thompson. A little jealous. And he's like, I can't get over that. I'm so upset at Ned Leeds for being so mad about it. Your wife literally almost got shot by a mad mass murderer police officer guy, and you don't have time for her, so she goes to cry in the bathroom, calls her friend Flash, who's there in a minute because, you know, he gives a shit about her, and then you're like, I knew it, that bitch, and fuck you, Ned. I hate Ned. Yeah. I don't know, I like Puma's design and everything, I just didn't, besides, like, I'm gonna kill the Beyonder, did he really have a whole lot of character? I
thought he did. I don't know. I thought it was cool that, again, the contrast between what he, like, the two sides of his, you know, personality. I think that's what makes him cool to me. Like, the tradition and, like, the modern day business entrepreneur. I think that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's funny that the elders they gifted him a new costume, and they were like, we hope that it shields you in battle, and it's just like another bathing suit.
I know, it's like just a slightly different color design. Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
they're like, it's purely for aesthetics. Everyone back home, they're like, Thomas Fireheart, damn, let's put him in a little onesie, please and thank you. And the furries are going wild. Yeah, and I think Josh said it when he was talking about how this is like the most Peter Parker's been in a long time. Mm-hmm. He's like, I'm not gonna kill people for money. I'm not a hero for money. What's wrong with you? Meanwhile, the gold notebook's like right there, and like we pan to it, right? And of course, we can't have a Spider-Man story without talking about the Notebook. But read it. It was fun. It was definitely fun. You don't need to read Spectacular to know what happens in this one, but what happens in this one is what happens in Spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I think what we could take away from this is that notebooks are the new hats.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of hats, Mary Jane, can you take off that ugly freaking hat? I hate this hat. She's so hot in this issue.
I thought you guys would like the hat.
She's so hot in this issue with the freaking the low cut socks and the booty shorts and the suspenders. Take the freaking hat off. I hate hats.
It compromises the whole look.
Well, she doesn't want to get her hair full of paint.
Ponytail,
yeah, she
girl.
is painting.
Yeah, okay, fair.
What is it with comic books and not being able to give women ponytails? Give the girl a damn ponytail.
Yeah.
2020.
I love her, like, Olivia Newton-John, let's get physical pose, though. Mm-hmm, that's how all women in 1987 paint your apartment, by the way. So I hope you need your apartment painted by your close girlfriends, because they all have thighs of steel. I'm
moving June 1st. I was thinking about painting the kitchen, actually.
You wear that hat?
Do you have a time machine?
Yeah, I've got the hats. You guys need to bring the booty shorts.
I thought you were going to say, I've got the hats, you bring the thighs. It's just... it's a fun issue, and thank God we're away from like some of the unnecessary grittiness that Spider-Man's poor ethics books from the library.
So, Josh, you recommended it, right?
Yeah, I would recommend this one.
And G.I. Jolie?
Yeah, for a non-typical portrayal of a Native American, I applaud this book, and
There you go.
I recommend it be read.
I recommend it too. Again, better than the average issue of Amazing Spidey. And as we said earlier, that story continues into this story, the all-new, all-daring Peter Parker, The Spectacular Spider-Man number 111, which I got as a kid in one of those... Okay, we have to go back and have a quick 2-second side story. Did they have this when you guys were kids? You'd go to the grocery store and they would have sealed plastic bags of 3 comic books. Did you guys ever have this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I had Archie comics.
Okay,
in
yeah.
the grocery stores.
So definitely, but on top of that, I just remember this one gigantic, imagine like an entire aisle with a bottom shelf were just these grab bags where you'd get like maybe the popular comic on top, like Spider-Man or G.I. Joe, and then in between, and then on the back you'd have maybe another popular one, and then in between you'd have like Power Man and Iron Fist or Dazzler or whatever they were trying to just get rid of, right? But these were pre-sealed by Marvel and DC and sent out, and that's how I got exposed to a lot of comics I'd never heard of, like New Mutants, like I said, Power Man and Iron Fist, even Daredevil. I didn't know who Daredevil was, but I got an issue of Born Again in there. So this was one of those ones. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say, to answer your question, I think mine would have been on the outskirts of the mid to late 90s, where they had that weird image style art. So I wasn't interested in those bags so much because I wasn't interested in any of the art that I could see through the plastic. But they had the X-Men trading cards in there, or they had some kind of trading cards that I was interested in. Also, what I will say though is that Disney comics, they packaged the same way and they had stickers in them, and I was more interested in those.
See, yeah, well, the cool thing about these was that you'd always you get exposed to comics you'd never read before. Oh, here's another one, Gru. You'd get an issue of Gru, which as a kid I'm like, this is stupid, and then you realize later, this was actually better than all the other ones. But anyway,
I don't know what that is.
Gru,
like from like Minions.
Yeah, like the Minions guy.
I don't know what that is, but no, it's not that. No, Gru is a parody of Conan the Barbarian. That's like it's like one of the longest running comedy like comic strips like ever. It started in like the 70s, I think.
Oh, so like Minions then.
So it's kind of like Minions, I think.
I think it's kind of like Minions.
Like when did Minions start?
We are definitely just fucking with you.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't have any experience with this because my mother would never take me to the grocery store because I was a little hell child.
Mm-hmm. And I was a twin, so it was just really, really hard for my mom to function at all.
She's like, we'll leave one with you and I'll take one, but then they'll be sad, so I'll take both. Maybe we just don't get groceries.
Yeah, maybe we starve.
It might be easier.
At that point, apparently. But no, you're right, it's Gru the Wanderer.
Yes. It's awesome.
By Sergio Aragonés.
Right. If you guys saw the art, you'd recognize it because he was a Mad Magazine artist, and basically everyone on Earth can recognize the art because he's awesome.
I was going to say, why would I recognize that?
Okay, let me just type in Gru.
Yeah, Gru the Wanderer. Actually, Jolie and I also met him at a comic convention, and he's really cool.
How do you spell? You met Gru at a convention? Wow.
No, we met Sergio Aragonés.
It's me, Gru.
Groo. I've met Gru.
I
met him at Universal.
Yeah.
I met Gru at Universal. It was wonderful. He was very, very kind.
But what if you just Googled GRU?
Okay,
yeah,
so
that's the Minions guy.
Getting back to this.
Right, back to Minions.
Oh, yes.
So I also want to comment, we didn't talk about the covers, really. Web of Spider-Man this week had like a kind of a cover that had nothing to do with the story, which there was a lot of around this time. Amazing was okay, but I actually really like this cover of Spectacular. I don't know, I just always liked it as a kid. A great shot of the giant puma coming towards Beyonder, who's recoiling in the foreground. Spider-Man swinging in to save the day. This scene kind of happens near the end of the book, but not quite. I don't know if the dialogue is necessary, but that's another story. And then also, so then we open up on this awesome splash page. And I want to lament splash pages because as everyone knows that reads comics in 2021, they don't really exist anymore, but this splash page is just awesome. Now, granted, you could argue that there's far too much explanation going on here, which we talked about earlier, in order to dive into a comic or into a story that you don't know anything about. There's probably too much explanation here, but I do like the idea of just diving in and having this guy standing there and kind of explaining where we are and then just jumping to the story. I think that's really cool. There are a bunch of different inkers on this issue. It's not just one. So these opening pages are probably the best in the issue, where we see Thomas Fireheart changing into Puma and then, making his way to this ninja lair that's protected by guards that he has to break into. The art here is incredible. The inking, the shadows. He sizes up these ninja guards and then fights them all, easily defeats them, of course, because he's the Puma. And he makes his way to this ninja master that is, of course, doing what one does when you're a ninja master, and that's listening to Duran Duran. So, yeah. So anyway, okay, so then Puma explains to the master guy, the sensei or whatever, that about what's happened with the Beyonder and how he got there. And of course, it turns out that this sensei is friends with the Beyonder. Now, again, maybe this is a question of continuity because he calls him an old friend, but the Beyonders only existed in the Marvel Universe for like 2 months of Marvel time, so I don't know how that works, but who knows, right? Who cares? So they kind of go back and forth and they talk about Secret Wars, and basically Puma explains that his mission is to kill the Beyonder, and Beyonder's like, yeah, sure, go ahead. And he's like, I'll see you dead, Beyonder. And he's like, do you believe that? And the sensei's like, do you truly know who that is? I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. No, there must be a 2 missing there. Then I suggest your wish to know everything there is to know about the Puma and the catastrophic series of events you've just set in motion. So in my opinion, I think this is a great situation that he's got himself into. We'll talk about that later. So Peter Parker's doing his thing. We get another one of those weird scenes that don't really come back. Well, they do come back, but it's kind of like just inserted into the story. But this is actually really sad. So Spider-Man is swinging along, and he sees a car speeding along that's about to get hit by another car. So he does what any superhero would do. He tries to, to stop them. And so he first they hit, then he shoots his webs and tries to stop the other car from careening off into hitting other people. And he thinks he's stopped this atrocity from happening. But sadly, the girl who was in the car riding with the guy ends up dying because she's hit her head on the, what's it called? The dashboard.
The dash?
The dashboard. Dash, yeah. So now we cut over, and so this is where the confusion sets in that we talked about earlier. Now we cut over to the ending of the previous issue is kind of repeated here. It's condensed into like half a page from 2 pages, but we continue the conversation between Beyonder and Puma, and they're going back and forth. And then things get a little bit wonky, and the Beyonder brings the sensei over. What's his name? Muramoto over from Japan, and he's dressed like, well, I don't know what he's dressed like, but kind of
like me in 2010.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's got dyed red hair, like kind of spiked up, and like a leather jacket, an Anarchy shirt, ripped jeans, and a guitar, exactly like Becca in 2010. Exactly. And so then Beyonder's like, well, yeah, do whatever you want. I'm gonna get out of here. So then what's his name? The sensei's trying to like explain to Peter Parker that basically the Beyonder's purpose is to help people get what they want. And now he's got a dilemma because the Puma wants to kill the Beyonder. So the only way that the Beyonder can succeed in his mission is to let the Puma kill him, which I think is a great premise, but we'll see how it ends up. And so then we cut over to another cool scene. The Beyonder is sitting with Death, who is the co-star of the Infinity Gauntlet, but not included in the movie. Thanos was in love with Death. That's why he destroyed half the universe, but that's another story. So he's trying to get some advice from Death, but Death isn't talking. So he's kind of basically just talking to himself. He's trying to like weigh the pros and cons of letting Puma kill him. And then meanwhile, we get like, some scenes with the husband of the guy whose wife got killed, and he's all pissed off. And then the Beyonder is chatting it up with Peter Parker, trying to figure out what to do. What's his name? Puma is back with his board of directors, trying to figure out what he should do. And then we cut over to the Sensei is now jamming with this like punk band. And the Beyonder is sitting in the audience with his arm around these two girls and just flirting with them, whatever. And Peter Parker and Joy, what's her name again? Mercado?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, are trying to get into this bar, but Peter's dressed like a square, as they all, or a narc actually. So he's having a hard time getting in, but Joy knows the bouncer or whatever, so she gets them in. Everything's good. Then what's his name? Puma. They just let him walk by because they're like, hey, this guy looks exactly like a Puma. Maybe we shouldn't stop him. So he goes in, and Beyonder can sense that he's come in, but at the same time, the guy who's this is the guy who was in the car accident earlier, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so sorry, I was wrong. The scene does come back, which makes it that much better. So anyway, the guy is walking towards the Beyonder. He's like, here we go. I'm going to kill the Beyonder. And he reaches into his coat and he's got a gun and what's his name? Puma is also going to kill the Beyonder. Pardon me. So they're both walking towards the Beyonder in the crowded bar. And the Beyonder's like, I can stop this in a flash. I can be on the other side of the universe. Can I live with losing? Can I die for the sake of winning? But the Sensei sees what's happening, and he's aiming for the Beyonder. Karami, that's the Beyonder's name in Japanese. Karami, beware! So he jumps in front of the guy that's shooting the Beyonder, and the guy ends up shooting the Sensei right through the chest. It goes through him and hits the Beyonder in the head, but the Beyonder is a god, basically, so he just instantly repairs it, and he's fine. Meanwhile, the Sensei falls over, and he's dead. Or he's dying. So the Beyonder kind of goes over and he's like, he's kind of like just cradling him or whatever. And then, what's his name? Puma is standing there. He's like, okay, now here we go. You killed my friend. Now I'm even more mad. Now I'm going to kill you. So in a scene that I don't really like and that is never really explained, he somehow is able to enlarge himself to a giant Puma. I guess that's the unfathomable power that he supposedly had to kill a god, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's okay. So he enlarges himself into this giant Puma, and he's getting ready to kill the Beyonder. But then the Spider-Man is trying to stop the Beyonder from letting him let Puma kill him. And then he's like, you know what? I give up. This is ridiculous. He's like, I don't want to hang around here for the bloodbath. The truth is, I can't tell the difference between reality and then when the Beyonder is manipulating me. And obviously, you can't either, Puma. But then Puma hears what he says. He's like, manipulating? And then Beyonder's like, well, Puma, get on, get it over with. So then Puma's just about to strike the Beyonder. And as he's sort of pouncing on him, he shrinks back down to a normal size and he takes a swipe at the Beyonder. And nothing happens because he's back to being like a normal-sized Puma. So he's like, the power, what happened to you? He's like, you doubted. Momentarily, you doubted your role. You were out of harmony with the universe. Puma, we have both failed. The blow struck was a mighty one, but even the mightiest Puma blow couldn't kill me. Looks like it's back to square one. The end. And Puma is standing there over the dead body of his sensei. And that's it. And I really liked it. I thought it was awesome. Not perfect, but I thought it was really good. I think everything fits together. I think, again, not perfect, but overall, I really liked the dilemma the Beyonder had, and I liked how it turned out. It wasn't perfect, but it was surprising. Josh, what did you think?
I don't know. I wasn't a huge fan of the second part, personally. The whole Sensei thing is very strange. It's very weird. Him becoming a rocker is like awkward. The Beyonder bringing him to America, or maybe he was already in America and he was a rocker here in America now. But like bringing him to Peter's place and then leaving him there, so now he's got to like perform in New York because he's stuck in New York, and it's just like very strange. And then Puma's god killing ability is to get a foot taller.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, okay, I guess that's cool. Like, he just teleported you to Japan because he thought about it. And you think that, like, getting a little bigger is going to kill him?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's just so much where I was just like, well, I don't care. Him talking to death is, like, whatever. I get it, and there's some stuff that's like really cool. Like you were saying before, I do kind of like the duality of like the Beyonder's whole purpose is to help others, and Puma wants to kill him. So in order for him to help Puma, he must die. Like that's kind of an interesting story and an idea, but it's just like it doesn't really matter. But I don't know. It's like, because of everything that happens in the issue, it's kind of like lost a little bit, I think, because it's like, I don't care. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I thought it started off a lot stronger and amazing.
Well, here's the thing. I do think part 2 is sort of better, but the one thing I will say is that whenever you build up a dilemma like this, how are they going to get out of it? You're kind of setting yourself up for failure, because the fact that I do like the climax, but the fact that the Beyonder had to explain how the climax happened weakens it a little bit, right? Like, oh, well, the reason you failed is because of this. And the fact that Puma's power is to just grow in size, like, is ridiculous. Like, did they really think that this guy was going to kill the Beyonder? Right. I don't know. And the Beyonder was scared for a while. Why was he scared?
Yeah, and like the whole, like, the ending, the reason why he lost the power is very like, it was love the whole time.
Yeah, I know.
It's like so cheap. It's
you
like,
didn't believe
okay.
strong enough.
And if part of the story was that Puma didn't believe in himself, that would be a different story, I think.
Good point.
I could kind of forgive it if we saw him have some sort of self-doubt earlier on in the story, but he's been completely confident and knows exactly what he wants the entire time. So why all of a sudden did he doubt himself here? Like, it just felt weird.
I just want to point out, this is also the end of Star Wars, but we'll forgive Star Wars. Anyway, okay. So,
sure.
G.I. Jolie, what did you think about this issue?
This issue is terrible.
Why do you think it's terrible?
Okay, for a number of reasons. I already went on about
when you reviewed Amazing, you reviewed this.
Yeah. When I reviewed Amazing, I couldn't stop going on about this.
Just cut the audio from that.
Yeah.
And put it here.
Yeah. And Becca, what do you think? So, there was just so much going on. Like a lot of things were going on, and it was so hard to follow. It was so wordy. And then when it got to the whole, when they pushed the Beyonder into the story, it got even more convoluted and hard to follow. And then they went to a nightclub and introduced more people that I've never seen before. And like, the whole scene where Peter, he's having his own small crisis, and then he does what most of us do when we don't want to think about our own issues, is we bury them underneath other issues, or we find issues with which to bury our current issues under. So we have to just worry about that. And then, so he, there's the scene with the car and where the civilians die, where that civilian mod dies.
Right.
That was crazy out of place. It felt so strange. Like, he's sitting on the top of a roof. Not to mention that we just came from, maybe feudal Japan. I don't know if you can time travel backwards in time in Japan when you go up a mountain, but that's what it seemed like. We just went from Japan halfway through a page to it's dawn in New York, and he's thinking about he's thinking about everything. Peter is sitting there in that the black suit. He's like, well, Jean DeWolf is dead, and then Nathan's in the hospital, and then this other guy is in jail, and this other person's in jail, and maybe there's a plane crash, and this guy lost the love of it. He's literally thinking about everything we've read for the past 3 months in just the first panel. And then he's like, but I don't know how I'm going to make money to pay rent. I wish something would happen that I could take photos of. And then, wouldn't you know, it does. Like, it's so weird. The writing is very strange. It's almost like, I don't even know what to compare it to. I want to compare it to like current like YA storylines where they just kind of take you and stretch you in really different places while feeling all kinds of, they ask you to feel all kinds of emotions with the main character at the same time. And this is what it felt like. It was like, okay, so we're sitting in his turmoil and now we're sitting in another form of turmoil, which is death.
Yeah, it's tough because like it's that kind of lighthearted, like, oh, beans, nothing's going my way, and then it cuts to woman dying because she smashes her head against a dashboard in a car accident. Like it really like, oof, like it's like a whiplash,
right? And then they had to
this.
right after you see a man lose his wife, it cuts to Mary Jane bent over the ladder, but from a different angle, right? So it's like, I found that
Good
really
point.
cool. Like it's like, oh, okay, I could place this in time with Amazing, which I just read. So it's like, okay, so these events happened in between, and they're trying to kind of place what happened in Amazing in this issue of Spectacular. So I get that that's happening, but it's very confusing. Because now it's like Peter was just outside trying to stop death, and now he's inside painting his apartment, which we know burnt down from the first issue that we read. And then Puma shows up unannounced because we know that he's there to give Mary Jane a kimono, and because he gives her the kimono, right? And then Beyonder in the magenta suit. Like, I don't know how anyone who read all titles every month reconciled this in their brains. Like, it's so much.
Yeah.
What else was terrifying about this issue? Morimoto in his new punk sort of gear. I will say though that Becca's mohawk is bigger and better. So
Thank you.
she's there's definitely that. He kind of looks like Billy Idol, but I mean that's besides the point. And then I will say that like Beyonder's club gear, his club kid sort of gear is really cool. Like he looks kind of like Prince.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
But also Puma's outfit sort of changed. It got smaller when they went to the club. The club scene also really weird. Like, who is Joy? Do we know her before this?
Yes.
She just works for the Bugle.
Yeah, a few issues ago. She's a photographer.
That's it.
She's the one that took the photo of the guy that killed himself, the Smithville Thunderbolt. Was that her?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't her. No,
that's a different character.
She's someone else.
She's the one that like Peter goes on a date with when she's like first introduced in like they like take a cab somewhere. Yeah, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
She's tough.
Yeah, and I thought this was another great like Peter Parker issue where it was like we can applaud Peter for being Peter and Peter only until we get to the club scene and he's dancing with this Joy girl. Where he's like, why did I ignore this girl? It's like, oh my God, because you have your head so far up your ass that it's insane. Of course, that's why you miss this girl. That's why you miss every girl. And that's why you'll always miss girls, because you're an idiot. Like he's fine, and then they write him as this weird like fumbling idiot when he's what, 25, 26? Possibly. Maybe older, I don't know. Like they just seem like really strange mistakes for the amount of experience this bumbling idiot has been through when it comes to women. Like he has had enough experience to know better. Anyway, what else is weird? I didn't get the whole he grew, that he got bigger. It didn't seem that way. You know?
Well,
that wasn't super apparent other than on the cover.
Yeah, well, all of a sudden, if you go to digital page 24, he is like twice as big as Yonder.
Yes. He also says that because he's bigger. But like he is bigger, but again, it could, I don't know if that's perspective. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to differentiate between whether that's perspective or if he is actually 4 times his size.
Right.
So yeah, again, it's just too much for, and then to have the Beyonder go, well, I guess it's back to square one, and then disappear, like nothing that we read just mattered. Like nothing that we just read mattered. It was really dejecting.
I didn't feel that at all, but I will say that the one thing I'll give Amazing is that we talk about Amazing, how clean it is and how like whatever it is. I think the key thing with Amazing, and if you were to break down every panel has a purpose, right? And every panel has only a few word bubbles and just a few captions, and you zip along the story, and it's just, it's the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby formula. It's great. But if you look at Peter Parker, that opening splash page, a guy standing on a roof. Well, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes of text. You could have 2, you could have 1, you could have 0, right? And then you go to the next page, and there's all this thought balloons and blah, blah, blah. And it kind of makes me realize that it's almost like the art and the story are a little bit divorced, and there's a lot, especially like you talked about the scene where Peter Parker's up on the roof on Digital 10. You could have had anything. It's just him sitting on the roof. It's not like Amazing where each panel has a specific purpose to the story. If we just have a shot of Peter on the roof, there's nothing wrong with that, but it should have a specific purpose to the story, whereas you could pull out all these bubbles and replace them with something else and it wouldn't really affect the story, right? It could just be... Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say that on that one page where he's sitting on the roof,
right,
it could all be replaced with a thought bubble that says, just another day in the life of Spider-Man.
Right.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And that would summarize everything that he's feeling.
Yep.
Like, if nobody knows if this is somebody's first issue, they're still going to get that nothing goes right for Peter.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's you don't need to recap
the
past year's worth of stories.
That's a great point. Mm-hmm. And you know what the funny thing is they think that we need that. They think we need a reference to, well, this issue that happened and Nathan Lipinski got beat up and this happened. No, because now you read it 30 years later and you're like, wait, did I read those issues? What's happening? Is it out of order? It's like you just said, Josh. If they would have just said, another, more Parker bad luck or nothing's happening, at least then it can fit in anywhere. Now, obviously, if you're reading Spider-Man, okay, this is Joey Mercado. I know where this story fits. But to constantly reference other stories, it just drags it down. It'd be better to just have generic, Parker luck strikes again, and then something happens or whatever. That'd be much better. You're right.
Yeah, and if this was somebody's first ever issue of Spider-Man, we have Gene DeWolf, Nathan Lipinski, Homer Potchkins, Aunt May,
right?
All of Aunt May's friends. Like they're all named in this one panel. It's like, huh? Wait, who's that?
Right.
Wait, who's dead?
Good point.
Wait, let's have it's not needed unless you've read the other issues. And if you've read the other issues, you know this already. So
Good
just
point.
move on.
Good point. I agree with all that. I agree.
And then just to add on to both of those things, like in that panel where he's sitting on the roof, it's like, I'd refer you to Amazing number 271, Peter Parker number 110, and Webb number 10, but you already collect those 3 titles, don't you? Fuck you. Excuse you.
Jim Shooter, fuck you, yeah.
Yeah, what if I don't? What if I'm a broke kid and this is the comic that I get to afford to buy once a month and I want to read Spectacular and that's what I read? Yeah. And then you go to literally the next panel and Peter's like, it's no wonder I came so unglued and attacked Jonah Jameson. And I was like, when did that happen? So I checked the annotation. I was like, oh, it hasn't happened yet because I haven't read issue 13 of Web because it hasn't come out yet.
Right, because it doesn't exist.
What?
I know.
As a kid, I would have been pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I also would have been saving, but also just, just petitioning all my friends. Which one of you is getting this issue? Because I need to see that happen. So I was curious because it was very, the way that they presented the team that wrote or created this book, it was at the end, right? It was very they highlighted the team at the end of the book, which is not something that they normally do. It's usually at the start.
Right.
So I was like, you know what? That's weird and very cinematic of them. So
yes, that's what they're going for.
Yeah, right? So I just not knowing how I really felt about this issue, and feeling kind of uneasy about the writing, and like we always do, we talk about who the writer is. I looked up who Jim Owsley is. And because I was like, what else did he write? I'm gonna pie in my face if he's like this prolific writer, and I'm sitting here like, this is trash. Jim Owsley is Christopher Priest.
Right. Yeah, we talked about him before, yeah.
Exactly. But here's the thing, is that like I followed I was more intrigued by the reason why he changed his name from Jim Owsley to Christopher Priest, or Christopher J. Priest, as he likes to be referred to. And I read digitalpriest.com is his blog. I mean, this is adjacent. This is Spidey adjacent currently. So part of my tangent. But I appreciate the writing of this comic more having read his blog, because he writes... It's like a diary-esque kind of way. And he's a pretty good writer. It's, this would be like, I don't know how to give it a scale, but like, it's like a Tumblr, it's a Tumblr 10. I suppose.
We also have to point out...
10. Oh.
We also have to point out he was the editor of Spider-Man at this point. So if you're
a year, right?
Yeah, for a couple years. But basically, when he took my favorite era of Spider-Man is Jim Owsley's run, which is when Peter David and Tom DeFalco started to the end of the Hobgoblin saga. That's my favorite era. The crazy thing about it is he was only 25 at the time that he got this job. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong with my life, but this guy had his shit together, He was running the second most popular Spider-Man or Marvel series at the time. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, he's pretty cool.
Well, I just wanted to say that he, if you didn't initially like the writing, because I didn't, read his blogs, get to know the person that is inside. Read his blog post about his divorce. That's the one that really got to me. And really made me kind of, it opened my eyes. And then I read a little bit more of this and I was like, okay, I get it. I see what he's trying to do. This is, he started not too early. This is right around when he started writing. It was one of his first things. I think he worked for a couple years somewhere else or on a different book. But this is early work. So I would be interested to read later work.
Sure.
If this is what his earlier work is like. It's just too much. It's doing a lot. You don't have to do that much work.
Well, he did do a good run on Black Panther that's really critically acclaimed. So anyway.
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm confused. Are you guys saying that you didn't like that after two of the main characters' mentor dies, they crack a joke about somebody calling the police? You can't. They broke up.
That was awesome. Anyway,
I
hated it.
It's a clever joke. Okay, very funny.
Yeah.
Somebody literally just died. What is happening?
Right?
I didn't get it until you just said
why
that.
does British New Wave do so much heavy lifting in this book? I don't know.
Yeah, here's my critique of this. So we have to go a little bit further back for this to all make sense to everybody else, but there's this video game called Second Life. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's an MMO, virtual life simulator game online from the late 90s, early 2000s, where you can pretend to be whoever you want to be. You could be a vampire or a furry, or you can just have sex with other avatars, which is what everyone else ended up doing. Anyway, there's a world in Second Life, which is the Duran Duran universe. And it's made by the band Duran Duran as an advertisement for their band.
Oh, no.
I'm going somewhere, I swear. And then in this world, people go there often because like a popular YouTuber made a video about it once, and it crashes all the time. That's how I feel about reading this. I'm the Crash Duran Duran world in Second Life.
Okay.
I'm
sure everyone felt that way, Becca, but anyway.
Who was there?
I was like, why is everything happening? Why does this Native American man have a Japanese sensei to teach him not even kung fu? He just does kicks. The whole time I'm just like, everything the Beyonder says, I just want him to shut up. Peter needs to also shut up. It's spectacular, so 2 people need to die horrible deaths, and then have jokes immediately after. Like, one woman dies, and then immediately after it's Mary Jane's lovely legs, and then another person dies, and immediately after it's a very bad police joke. Death is here, sure, why not? The Beyonders just like... Also, the Beyonders just weirdly compliments Peter Parker's level of responsibility for no reason. Like, it just... It's all over the place for me, and I didn't like the writing at all. And I believe in death of the author, so I'm sure the author's blog posts are very lovely, but I'm not going to read them because this was trash.
All right.
And
Fair.
I hate the Beyonder.
Fair.
I hate the Beyonder. I hate everything the Beyonder's ever been in and ever touched. He ruins everything.
Okay, but the outfit, though.
Bad.
Oh, wow.
I loved it.
Okay.
Magenta jumpsuit?
No. The white jumpsuit at the end in the club with the shoulder pads.
Oh.
And the Prince hair.
A ripoff of Boy George. Get your own look.
Yeah, okay, fair.
I do want to say, though, I understand that you'll never read anything else he's written comic book wise, but he is an ordained Baptist minister. Would you consider perusing his ecumenical essays?
I'm a pagan.
I mean, for the sake of
sorry, what was that you cut out?
Like, making sure that your practice is all inclusive and aware of every religion around you. He also is a musician.
Oh, I couldn't tell.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Couldn't tell he was a musician.
Is he perhaps a guitar player?
Yes. He is let's see. He produced a full concert multi-track recording featuring 85 voice choir, a 10-piece band in which he is featured on the bass guitar. Anyway.
Dang.
Yeah. So he's currently writing Vampirella for Dynamite and U.S. agent for Marvel. So he's still in the biz. Oh God. Anyway, I hope it got better.
My biggest whole thing too is this is Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he in the next issue of Secret Wars more than he is in his own book? Like, just give. Why is this Puma stuff all in Secret Wars? Like, I don't understand why it's all in Spider-Man.
No, that's a good point. It's not. But I personally don't have an issue with the main hero being sidelined in their own story. Like, I don't mind that. I mean, that happens in Doctor Who all the time, so it doesn't bother me, you know?
Yeah, but isn't the Doctor sidelined for other characters from Doctor Who?
Well, no. In the episode Blink, which is considered the best episode of the new show, the Doctor's in two scenes, and the whole story focuses around Carey Mulligan, who's not a regular in the show. So I don't know. I think it's kind of a common thing with serial fiction, you know?
Yeah, I didn't mind it because there's a reason for Peter to be here, right? Like, he's actually a part of the story. So him being absent for it didn't bother me a whole lot, especially since this is like a part 2 to the last one. Like, we know his involvement. So if we are going to focus on Puma, that's cool with me. But the story wasn't good anyway. So it's like, okay, well, I guess I didn't get this character that I wanted to read about, and I got this story that's kind of not great. So
I wish the Puma was after somebody that wasn't the Beyonder.
This is true.
Yeah.
It could have been a stronger story. I feel like the Beyonder He ruins everything he touches. He's like, oh, I don't know what my purpose is in life. Oh, maybe my purpose is to give people purpose. Well, I guess this guy's purpose is to kill me. Guess I'll die. No. Just don't do that.
Well,
just give him a different purpose in life. His purpose is to kill the biggest threat in the universe. Don't be the biggest threat in the universe. Easy. Solved your whole issue.
I do know that a lot of times there would be writers who had stories that were pretty much ready to go, and then Jim Shooter came in and was like, oh, by the way, you have to put the Beyonder in this issue. And they're like, yeah, but he doesn't fit at all. He's like, too bad, you have to put him in. So I don't know, maybe this story was written with a different character in mind, and then they changed the Beyonder, or maybe they tried to do what they could with the Beyonder and tried to make him fit into the story, but theoretically, yeah, it didn't have to be the Beyonder. They could have given Puma another purpose, right? I mean, he's been around for a couple years, and clearly when Tom DeFalco created him, he probably didn't think, I know what I'm going to do with this guy. I'm going to make his sole life purpose, is to kill the Beyonder. But that's how it turned out.
Which is kind of a shame. Does Puma come back at all, like outside of the Beyonder? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. He'll be back. Many times.
It's like, once he's dead, then what's your purpose, my dude?
Yeah.
I like the girl. I like Joy. Her name's Joy?
Yeah.
I like Joy. I like how in the office setting, she was like in a nice red blouse and a long black skirt, and she's like, yeah, I'm a serious reporter. And then she's like, you look like a narc, Peter. I'm gonna go get changed. And then she dresses into the like punk goddess of my freaking dreams.
Right.
And Peter's still dressed like a freaking narc.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also, I do think the art in some places is really good. Some places not so good, but I like some of the pages. Because as we said, it's all different inkers.
Mm-hmm.
So
maybe that's why I felt so jumbled too. It just feels inconsistent in places.
Right, which unfortunately, God bless Jim Owsley, but in his run, we've seen a lot of fill-ins on Web of Spider-Man, especially, right? It's like they can't figure out what to do with each series, other than Amazing, so I don't know.
Secret Wars ruins everything.
That's true. Coming up next, Secret Wars number 8. Okay, so I still recommend this issue because, as I said, I grew up with it as a kid and I see all its beauty. I can ignore its flaws, like true love, right? G.I. Jolie, do you recommend this one?
As someone who's never known true love and has a black heart, no, I cannot recommend this issue.
All right, Bex Luthor. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
All right, Bex Luthor, do you recommend it?
For love to work, both participants have to have equal chance to put into as much into that relationship as possible. This issue's giving me nothing, and I'm giving it everything, so I think we're going to have to break up.
Ooh.
Yep. It's not me, it's you. Because I'm great. I'm a catch. I'm Joy in the dancing in the club, and this issue is Peter Parker being a narc and not realizing how hot she is.
Yeah.
All right, Joshua Merval.
This week's issue of Peter Parker is a fumbled misstep to a promising good part 1 of a story. So I don't think I would recommend it just because it kind of falls flat for me.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, guess what? Now it's time to talk about...
We're done.
No.
Time to go home.
Secret Wars 2, number 8. We gotta talk about this before we wrap up.
At least Spider-Man's in this one.
That's
Jesus.
True. We have an awesome... I'm not going to review this one, but we have an awesome freaking cover. I love it, by Al Milgram of the Beyonder, destroying New York City. It's great. And it's all downhill from here. So who's going to summarize this one?
I think it was me.
Okay, I didn't read it. Did you?
The issue? No, I was instructed to read only pages 20 to 22.
Okay, we'll skip directly to the Spider-Man scene then. Oh, wait a minute.
Honestly,
I didn't realize, guys. Oh my God, when I said Spider-Man was on those pages, I didn't realize the Puma scene is in here.
Yeah.
No.
I had no idea. Page 7, they flash over to it.
Oh.
It's not worth reading. Don't go back.
It's just like a flashback.
I'm not going back. Yeah, I'm not going back.
Gotcha.
So yeah. Oh,
so let's talk about that
chicken wings recipe and Secret Wars. Okay, so pages 20 to 22, and you don't even have to read all of page 20. You just have to skip to the second half of the page. Thank God, where Beyonder pops himself into Manhattan to have a chat, a philosophical chat with none other than Peter Parker.
Right.
And he pretty much is trying to figure out a reason why humanity deserves to exist. Am I incorrect? Am I correct?
He's trying to figure out, what humanity means and all that.
Yeah, and Peter at this point is just really not giving him like great answers. He's just giving like okay answers. And they're adequate enough, though, to annoy the Beyonder.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Becca is more annoyed with the Beyonder than the Beyonder is annoyed with Peter Parker. But it is enough for him to be like, shut up, I'm leaving. And then he just leaves. And then it cuts to a scene where he's suddenly in the middle of the New Mutants and they're like fighting. And that's the scene. That is Peter Parker's involvement in Secret Wars number 8.
All right.
Thoughts?
I think it's okay. Do you guys remember? Did anybody watch the crossover that CW did with all Supergirl and Flash and Arrow?
Yes. The Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yeah.
That's what this scene feels like. It feels like Jim Shooter's like, okay, I got to get a scene with New Mutants. I got to get a scene with Power Man Iron Fist. I got to get a scene with Spidey. And really, it doesn't amount to anything. Like, Beyonder doesn't really learn anything he didn't already know. He just gets annoyed with Spider-Man. So, I mean, again, I haven't read the rest of the issue, but I seriously doubt it had any effect on the story. So, yeah. Again, more crap from Secret Wars 2. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, it's very strange. It doesn't really fit. Why would he go see Peter of all people? They didn't really have. I guess he's all knowing. So if you're gonna go somebody who has a good moral compass, I guess Peter Parker is the person to go to, right? So like he's pretty like he's pretty just and has, that sense of responsibility. So I guess the Beyonder would go to him for advice. It's just weird that he is this all-knowing, all-powerful being that could read everybody's mind and doesn't know this already.
Right. Like, I don't.
That's strange.
That's the
what
thing.
is he sensing? Peter in his apartment mulling over that damn golden notebook again? Honestly.
Look at how crunched up his face gets too when he's like, we all live life to the fullest because we all know that one day it's going to end and we're just all trying to make the best of it. He's like, that face, he's just like, why?
Yeah.
It's like, what is wrong with you? He looked so fucking pissed off.
Yeah.
God, I knew it.
And it's what he's angry about isn't even anything to be that angry about. One, my favorite part is when Peter is like, oh, hey, Beyonder, long time no see, old chum. I can't really let you in to use the bathroom, but like that's the first line. I kind of love that. But the thing that you're talking about, though, Josh, he's like, so, all human endeavor is about existing, and it's lent meaning by the finiteness of life. Like, this is unacceptable. I'm so angry. Really? Like a baby. He's like throwing a tantrum about life.
The thing is like, that whatever. I feel like this question or this philosophical debate could fill like barely one issue, not 9 issues plus all these crossovers, right? Like, it's just not a strong enough dilemma or whatever. Like, it's so self-indulgent. Well, just so everyone knows, spoiler alert, Jim Shooter was fired soon after this. And
what'd he do so wrong?
I don't know.
So, yeah,
I don't see it.
the writing was on the wall. But anyway. So yeah, did anyone not review this issue yet? I don't. Becca?
Me.
Oh yeah, Becca again.
Becca.
God forbid we get my opinion on Secret Wars. So I didn't read the whole issue, but I did skim it. The Peter Parker part obviously is pointless and has no reason to be there, except that you need to know that Peter Parker is the Beyonder's favorite human.
Yes, important.
It's like, why not? I like you better than anyone else I've met. Like, that's nice. You let a man use your bathroom once and now you're besties. But yeah, he's like, oh, humans appreciate life because we die and it's finite. That's the reason. And then Beyonder's like, well, I can't die. That's dumb. And then jumps out a window or walks out the window or whatever he does because he knocks on the door to come in this time. He doesn't just pop in. Mm-hmm. But the worst part of this whole issue, I think, is the fact that the stuff with Molecule Man is good.
Yeah, I mean, there's always something good, but yeah, I don't mind Molecule Man.
It's unfortunate. The stuff with him and his girlfriend, Martha, I think her name is. Marsha, is very sweet, and I really, really like their relationship. And this issue, it like ends with the Beyonder deciding that he comes back to Molecule Man, and Molecule Man is like, I have to kill a Beyonder because he's too much of a threat. So he tries to kill him, and obviously he can't, so it just pisses off the Beyonder. And the Beyonder gets super angry because Molecule Man has a girlfriend who loves him, and he doesn't have anybody. Mm-hmm. So Marsha, being the smartest person in this entire comic, says, oh, don't kill me, just kill him. Like, I have nothing to do with it. I don't even love him, whatever. And she bounces because she knows that if the Beyonder's no longer jealous of Molecule Man, that he won't kill him. Mm-hmm. So she gives up her relationship to save him. And it's actually like heart-wrenching. And then we go immediately back into stupid at the end of the issue. Mm-hmm. It's so frustrating that the stuff with Molecule Man is good and everything else is awful. Did every single issue of Secret Wars have to have every single current Marvel character in it?
Apparently.
Okay.
I also love how go ahead, Becca.
No, I was just going to say, because everyone's here.
I know. Also, you want to talk about, referencing other issues. At the bottom of digital page 27, following New Mutants number 37 and Amazing Spider-Man number 274, both on sale soon. Then I realized, you know who's responsible for all these little footnotes? None other than Bob Budiansky. Because he's the editor, so he's the one plugging all these other comics.
That's his job, though.
You know what this kind of reminds me of?
What?
There's this kid on TikTok, and he has a bunch of Marvel action figures.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know this kid.
All of his TikToks are just him playing with the action figures, but he has this like really deep like lore to it all. He has a whole story planned, and he tells the story with the action figures, and it's more interesting than this.
It is much more interesting than this.
It genuinely is. The one day I was scrolling through and I found it again. One of his videos popped up. I'm like, you know what? I gotta know where the story started, and I went back. And it was like this big fight with Falcon and Sam. They were teaming up against. It was literally a kid playing with his action figures, and it made more sense than this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
please
100%.
Drop the link in the group chat, please.
Yeah, next time I come across it, I'll send it over for sure. But it genuinely, it was more entertaining because it's like a goofy kid's story that he's making up in his head, and it has the same feeling because this really, we've said this many, many times, and I'm sure I'll say this every single time I talk about Secret Wars or any of these big crossover events, but it feels like a kid dumping their action figure bin on the ground and playing with every single one in this gigantic story, because there's no reason for half of these characters to be here. Really, is there a reason for Peter to be here? No.
Not really.
Not really.
You know,
the Hulk gets tossed around for a bit too for no reason.
Yeah.
The X-Men and the New Mutants show up.
You know, I always said that Secret Wars 2 was better than 1 because it had more of a story, but I don't know if I feel that way anymore. I don't know. They're both equally...
I think it's better.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
But you polish a turd. Right?
Yeah, sure.
Secret Wars 2 makes me angrier because they're trying or they're not trying to try. At least in 1 it was just a clusterfuck.
At least 1 it gave us the symbiote.
That's true.
You know what? And Magneto and Wasp made out, so.
And nothing really came out of Secret Wars 2, right? Nothing.
The Beyonder?
Well, he was in 1, but I mean only as a voice.
I can't think of anything. Yeah, I can't think of anything. Does something significant happen in Secret Wars 2 that sticks around in the comics for a long time?
Not really. No.
No, I don't I'm trying to think.
I mean, all the new
Thing is back by now.
Yeah, like I know that the Beyonder goes over, kills all the New Mutants, but they come back like the same issue, so that obviously didn't last long.
Right.
Yeah, because he gets rid of Death earlier in Secret Wars 2, but she comes back, so.
We know Peter's not gonna get the money from the Notebook, so that doesn't change. So
the Notebook is the thing that
there you go.
Comes from Secret Wars 2.
There you go.
Yeah, but
because they won't ever stop referring to it.
I have a feeling it's gonna end as Secret Wars is ending, though.
A feeling or just a prayer? Like a hope?
Little this, little that.
All right, well, I guess on that note, we have one more issue of Secret Wars 2 to go. But...
Really? Spider-Man's in issue 9?
Of course he is.
How many pages?
I'm not sure yet, but it's a handful.
Oh.
Like a handful, like ripped out in frustration?
Yes, you could say that.
Well, he's not on the cover, so...
He's definitely in there, I checked. Sorry.
Oh, everybody else is. Why wouldn't he be?
Also, we're going to be reviewing next week Web of Spider-Man number 12, featuring the follow-up to this story about his apartment being set on fire. In Amazing Spider-Man 274, we have a guest appearance by the Beyonder, so be sure to check out that one.
Ooh.
And then Peter Parker number 112, we finally find out the resolution to the subplot about Santa Claus breaking into apartments and stealing toys. And then, as we mentioned earlier, we have Secret Wars 2 number 9, the last issue of the series. And Josh, you can take it from here.
I'm actually skimming through the next issue, and I think that he only shows up in a thought bubble.
There you go. We got to read that issue.
I think the Beyonder goes, remember Spider-Man? Anyways, we want to thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast. It really helps when you leave us a review over on Apple Podcast, or you could drop us a line on Twitter at HCTSpidercast. Please let us know what you guys think about the comics we're talking about and what you think about the podcast itself. We want to keep that comics conversation going, so please keep in touch.
And we want to thank G.I. Jolie and Bex Luthor for joining us once again, and hopefully you'll be with us next week, along with special guest Andrew Helmer. So
you're having a special guest episode on a Secret Wars episode? Like, do you hate your friends and you want to never come back?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
I do what I can. Until next Monday,
Spider Friends, go for it!
Bye.